Thank you very much for having me here. As I say, my name is Joaquin Prado, Director of Technical Programs at OMA. And the first question I have for you is, I realize that I'm the last guy between you and cold beer out there, so I will try to be as quick as I can. But who of you are aware about Open Mobile Alliance? Who knows Open Mobile Alliance? Okay, more or less like half. So in that case, those that know Open Mobile Alliance, probably they know LighweightM2M as a IoT protocol. So what we have here, I'm going to be very quickly, it's, oh, you have the whole presentation. Okay, never mind. What we have is the sensors, the hardware sensors are collecting the information. You have temperature, pressure, input, digital input, output, all these kind of things. Then there will be some kind of drivers converting or passing this information from the sensor into the constraint device. And the constraint device, when it looks at what the sensors are connected, what it sees is the representation that you have here about object resource model, data model. So what's happening is that any sensors that you have out there can be represented by this type of model, where you have, for example, a sensor number 5000 represent a temperature, and inside of that sensor you have resources, and each resource is indicating, for example, one if it's in centigrade, so Fahrenheit, another one represent if you have some kind of setup threshold, if the temperature goes above 30 degrees or whatever. And there is always, obviously, a whole classification about these resources. The resources can be write on them, you can read, you can execute the resources. And the constraint device is going to be running the client. The client now knows how to address or where to find all this information reported by the sensors, and is going to expose all that information to the server on the other side, which is somewhere in the cloud. So the server goes, look to the device and say, okay, I know what you have, and I can start manipulating all these resources that are exposed through the protocol. So that is what is device management in a very, what is LighweightM2M in a very high level. The different functionality that you can is listed here on the bottom. You can do bootstrapping, device configuration, firmware update, fault management, configuration control, and reporting. So all of that through this system that we have on here. The next slide, I borrowed from one of the slides that we have in OMA, and I realized there are something on there even myself I'm not sure about, so I want to try to avoid it. But the important thing here is this. You can see in this protocol stack, let's go to start from at the level of co-op. Co-op is equivalent to a transport mechanism, is a HTTP for constraint devices. And LighweightM2M, which is the protocol defined by OMA, is a payload inside of co-op. So what you have is co-op developed by ITF, LighweightM2M, device management developed by OMA, and then the resource model that we discussed before, that resource model is defined by an organization called IPSO Alliance. Who is familiar with IPSO here? Have you heard about IPSO? So IPSO, they take all these objects and goes and start developing, it's like breaking down the sensors an atomic component. So the next idea of this is let's go to see an escalation model. Let's go to take all these different sensors in different sectors or verticals, and then you are going to be able to manipulate all this information remotely. That is the main concept of LighweightM2M. And that is based on the IPSO version 1.0 data model. Now, IPSO is working in a new version. They call the IPSO Smart Objects version 2.0. And we don't know exactly what is on there yet, so we will have to, in the case of OMA, we will have to adapt into that. So the important thing, this is just like a very brief summary about LighweightM2M, but the important thing that brings me here today is the concept about ecosystem. And this is ecosystem about different organizations that are working in the IoT space. We started about 2 years ago. In OMA, we produce documents. We produce PDF. This is what we do. We do PDF that you read, and you can see client requirements and server requirements, and it tells you how this is going to interoperate through the protocol. And that is what we are exposed to the community. And we are expecting that developers, they will take, in some cases, documents of 200-300 pages, and just by reading through, we'll be able to interpret what we are doing, and they will create the client and the server, and then we run some test fest where clients and servers, they come along and they start testing, and they can verify if the specifications has been written correctly. So all of that, it did work quite well inside of OMA, because we were put together for the industry, for the telecom industry, for the telecom. So you have at that time Nokia, Ericsson, Vodafone, AT&T, Microsoft, a lot of these companies, big corporates, they come together and they start creating services for the mobile industry. LighweightM2M is a protocol which I will call more in the internet domain. It's outside of the domain of the telecom. So when we go to the industry and we say we have this device management protocol, the first thing we get in the reaction is, but you guys, if they know us, it is, but you guys, you are telco. So are you doing a protocol on this? How this works? So very quickly, we realized that in order to go, and I don't know if you see the colors on there, there is a potential here. Let me run all of this together. There is a way to collaborate among, in this case for LighweightM2M, I know you guys, you are running all the projects, and you can do exactly similar for other projects. But in the case of LighweightM2M, we have the transport, as I mentioned before, is provided by IETF. The resource model is provided by IPSO Alliance. And here in Eclipse, you took our specifications and you developed 2 projects, Wakayama and Leshan, based on that. So now we have, this is the group of I call the developers organization. These organizations that collaborate, or not that collaborating, they're working individually to create the components for this IoT space. Between the organizations, we are talking. There are some talks. But I think in order to progress to the next level, these talks has to be more formalized. And we need to understand the challenges from each side. No? Then we have the other side, the community partners. And the community partners, what I listing here is those companies, they took LighweightM2M and they are building something for the market. And this something is that you can reuse. For example, Microsoft IoT Hub, they have LighweightM2M, and you can start using LighweightM2M with them. Leshan, you know about that. ARM, they are embedded in the chips, the LighweightM2M, in addition of other protocols. Nokia, they have a test server with all the test cases produced by OMA, and if you have a client, you can log in into Nokia test server and you can run automatic test. And then what the other half we have in this ecosystem is something I have started about a few months ago, and is, okay, these companies, they have their own programs, they have their own training as well, but there is another user groups. We are getting a lot of interest from meetups and universities, where they say, oh, this protocol is pretty good, I like it, can you give us some information? Can you give us a presentation? We are running Test Fest. This year we are running, the first one is going to be in May, in Pennsylvania, in Pittsburgh. And we are thinking as well, or the group is thinking about to do some certification. In the case of telco, I don't know if you're familiar with the GCF, it's a European certification body. They are considering to go there, but there are other companies that they thinking we should do self-certification. We don't need to go do it in a particular body. And the other things I am about to launch at the next Test Fest is a JITA community. It's one of these chat rooms that you can go there and start asking questions about how you can do things. About 2 years ago, I started one in GitHub for problem reports. And since I started in a test fest in Düsseldorf in January in 2015, and since then we're having problem reports and questions coming pretty much every week. And this is coming, some of them, or large majority from this group, from Eclipse, but we are getting as well information from other developers. And the things you have to understand is the standards organizations, they work in a very different fashion. It's very difficult for the standards engineers start open the mind to GitHub. So all of this takes time for these people to understand this. Okay, we finalize our documentation, we put it in there, we expect everything is going to run okay, and suddenly we start getting regular feedback from developers asking questions about how this works or this is wrong. You know, and they're finding at the beginning a little bit defensive. But slowly they understand that in order to get this protocol working in the industry, we need to do that. So everything, as I mentioned, is started about 2 years ago. At that time, we create a program called the Developer Toolkit. And the idea of the Developer Toolkit was to say, okay, we produce PDF documentation, and we give it to the industry. But the developers, they need something else. So what is something else is needed? And the column on the left or left-hand side on your side are tools produced by OMA. And some of these tools are very simple, some of them are more complicated. But for example, bug fixes and issues is not a tool, but it's a service. And if you have a problem with LighweightM2M in terms of interpretation of the specifications, something that is not clear, something that you think is wrong, you can file an issue through GitHub. There is a LighweightM2M editor. Before I talk about this data model, so we have an editor that you can go there and create a model very easily. And you can register the model or the data model in a registry in OMA. So you will have allocated a particular number and you can build the resources with a particular number that you can go and reuse later. And this is published and it's becoming a standard. We are introducing, just recently we finalized the RESTful API, and we have a registry with all these objects. And the information in this registry is now made available through an API. And then, as I mentioned, at the next steps event, we are going to launch the JITA chat room, initially at the test fest, and then see if we can grow from there. We have other things about the community, and this is including here. Eclipse has things like the sandbox and open source with Wakama and Leshan. And then we have discussions with IPS Alliance to understand what is the next release they are going to do about the data model. So the idea of all of this is the collaboration. These are some ideas, things like a Vorto and things like that, where I try to collaborate with the guys here in Eclipse. And what I'm here is first to present what it's all about and see how we can collaborate in a more official manner, if you want, or give us some more issues about what exactly you would like to see coming from OMA. We can give you as well some of the challenges we are having with some of putting all this together. So I think if we are in the IoT space and everything is silos where they're working individually, this is about to start talking between the silos and see how we can operate among these organizations. So that's all for today. Thank you very much.
We need contact information. What would be the best way to reach out to you?
Yeah, in this presentation, if it's going to be distributed later, you have all the links to go to the wiki. And then you can find in the OMA website we are in the help desk. You can send us any question or just send it to me directly. You will see me there as well. And we can work from there. Okay, thank you.
I suggest that we take any questions you may have for Joaquin at the reception. I think that's a wrap for today. Thank you again,
Thank you.
Joaquin. A big round of applause actually for all our speakers today. Many of them actually traveled from